Well then, without further ado, 7th and 8th year families, we are here tonight just as an orientation to you. We're here as an orientation for what this next month will look like. And primarily we'll be talking tonight about the in-personness for about 7 out of 10 lower adolescent students have RSVP'd to be in person starting on Monday the 17th. And the 3 out of 10 folks who are still doing, the students who are still doing virtual learning are still going to engage in a really wonderful program. Don't be surprised though, if most of tonight though, we're talking about norms, on-site expectations, and what will be different about being on site this year. So Tammy, pitch it to you. And I think I know my cue is slide 6, but call me in whenever you want.
Cool. Likewise, if you feel like I forget anything, jump right in.
Okay, great.
So let's see. Yeah. So welcome. We're gonna do. We're going back in person on Monday. And despite all the nervous jitters that students might have and faculty might have, people are really excited, and it's really good to be back in the building and like hang out with these people, these colleagues that I work with, who I felt the other day like, oh, I'm treating Scott like my little brother now. Oh, this is new. So there's definitely going to be anxieties, but for your students, that's to be expected, and it's gonna sink in. It's gonna feel better. So if you're feeling that right now with your students, you know, you can just share that little story that even the guides are anxious and nervous, and it is coming together and they're feeling good about it. So what is Community Action Month? It's this project that was Action Project and really morphed and changed into this month or so of learning about how to turn what we've learned from the pandemic, the dual pandemics, into meaning, how to take all this hard work that we've been through, some are experiencing it harder than others, and make meaning from it. So what that looks like is Mondays, students choose an investigation, and we've got this choice board that students can interact with online, and they investigate that all week. And then they share out on Friday. So they're teaching each other, they're collaborating all week, and really learning from each other too. So they have investigation workbooks. You could ask your student to see it already. It's already in their Google Drive. So if you want to see their workbook and sort of like a preview and go through it with them, that might help them, the student, and maybe even you, kind of work a little of the jitters out. So we know that's really important for the 7th and 8th graders to know what's coming and to know how to plan for that as much as they can. And then we'll have this website, the CAM website, updated weekly, I think, so you at home can follow along too. What we really want to do is show the students that it is authentic learning and that it really is important work that they're doing. So then in the end of week 3, or maybe the beginning, they create their final capstone project. And we'll share that at the end of week 4 on our CAM website. So you can be part of it. This work is both for in-person and our virtual learners. So we've got support there, and no guides are doing both distance and in-person. So you will have a dedicated guide wherever you're at to help you land and delve into this work of both community building and making meaning from all this hard work and strife that we've been doing all year. So, and I'm also going to be a little brief because I don't want to keep you here forever and ever. Could go on for days. So, so this is our schedule for our in-person learners. We'll be starting the day at 9 a.m. So we've got our staff welcoming the students, and they'll be coming into the building in different rooms and different doorways so that we're keeping students away from sort of cobbling up all in one little area. We'll do some sort of social emotional games, get to know each other in that half an hour. And then, oh, there is a typo. Math is not online. Sorry about that. Math is in person in the rooms if you're in person, but of course, virtual if you're virtual. So we're still using the Montessori integrated math sets, and we'll still take the NWEA at the end of the school year so that we can see where we're at in terms of data. We use data for a couple different reasons in the school, so we'll do that. And then from like about 10 to 11:30, it's our CAM cohort meeting. So they'll be working on that Community Action Month. Then we have a walk to Como Park, a lunch that's outside on days that are not severe weather. We're gonna hope we don't have many severe weather days. And we'll do recess up there. So that enables students to come together as a whole community and play and eat in a much safer way than inside the building that we think. We do have backup plans for downpoury days and severe weather days. So just like anything, we'll continue the silent sustained reading or the 30 minutes of reading a day. And then we'll come back to our CAM investigations. Maybe it's independent work, it's one-on-one check-ins. Maybe we need to do a little catch up on math with students or resource room or interventions or noble adolescent work. Maybe we'll get that garden planted this year. So those kind of things. Bike shop and bike trip is weighing heavy on our mind for next year. So the bike shop will be running, things like that. Not the bike shop, the bike. We'll be learning bike.
Learning how to fix
That's your
bikes.
bike.
Yeah.
So,
don't bring your bike in, but we'll be fixing other bikes.
yeah. And so you virtual learners, you're going to follow really a similar schedule. Elizabeth will be your math guide, so she'll come into your time to do math with you. And Julie and Christina Sand will be your virtual learning guides. So it looks really similar. Lunch and recess is sort of on your own. And then, really similar. We've got our Wednesday schedule where, yep.
One heads up, I just noticed Julie Kesty put a notice. Julie Kesty's our virtual learner guide, and Julie aims to send a what's the deal heads up email to virtual learners likely tomorrow, and so students can look for that in their emails, what Julie says.
Yeah, maybe if you're a virtual learner, you've already gotten a card from Julie too. So be at the lookout there. She's really excited to build more community with you. What we're really hoping is to have our community building and community meeting on Wednesday. We're hoping to invite virtual learners, but we really got to see how it's going. So we're going to make sure and get our processes down, but that's something to think about if you as virtual learners are interested in the afternoons on Wednesday. We're not quite sure if we're able to do that yet, but something to think about.
We'll send out an invite. Don't count on it for the first Wednesday as we get our bearings, but we'll send out invites for specific locations following Wednesdays.
Yeah, something as we get more capacity, we hope to keep growing and keep getting better at our work. So, Sam, I think this is you. Is this slide?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I'll go over some basic logistics, show a map of where, when you arrive, where to go to get into your classroom. We're having cohorts generally use different doors to enter, so we can be a little more, frankly, so we can be a little more relaxed about entry and a little less stressed about cohorting together in the hallways. So we want to stay in our cohorts consistently. Talk a little bit about lunch, what to bring and not to bring. I'll talk about you know, if you can keep up with the current news and events about mask advice, good for you. I'll tell you what our current rules are, and I don't think we'll be changing them again the rest of the year, really, regardless of what anyone in the CDC or MDH says. We just can't deal with any more changes. So I'll tell you what our current rules are. And then just a reminder, if you do have questions, now is a great time to drop in the Q&A. Tammy and I will be done talking before you know it. And if you don't get your question in tonight, or you remember something after we're done, or if you're watching this recording, always you can reach out to office@greatrivers.org, and we'll be sure to gather up your questions and get answers out. Tammy, thanks for projecting your slide. Can you go to the next one? So here's a list, and we'll show a picture in a moment, but school starts, we're going to start, really think about 8:56 a.m. being the time we begin. And so we want to arrive between 8:30 and 8:55 so that all students are in the cohorts, hands washed or sanitized, mask checked, in the room and settled in, so we can really start together at the beginning of the day. So arrive between 8:30 and 8:55. Again, if you need transportation that you're not providing for yourself, please be in touch with us. We are providing bus cards, and generally our yellow school buses are full, except in very unique cases. So please be in touch with us if you need materials or resources to get to school. But our entry points there, we have 5 cohorts. And Tammy, remind me, when will students find out their cohort?
I believe they already know. I think Stacy sent that email.
Oh, great. Oh yeah, okay, great. Thank you for the reminder. So you should have an email sent by Stacy Krieger today that has your student, you as a student, your name, and the cohort you're in, and these are the different cohorts you'll be in. If you didn't get that email, again, reach out to us at office@greatrivers.org, and we'll get that answer to you. You will have a little protocol at each door for when you enter. Generally, you'll want to have your mask on before you come into the building. You want to have your hands clean, and then you want to sanitize also just as you enter. And then in each cohort will be in a classroom. And generally, cohorts will have their own entries from the exterior. So we'll spend very little time in the hallways and no time in the hallways as groups. So you'll go to the bathroom, but as Tammy showed the beautiful sign she's making, each cohort will have their own stall also, just to really keep cohorts as contained as possible in the building. So that's something we've been doing across the building with other groups also. Departure will be at 3 o'clock. And then the pickup line, if you're, say, a driver coming to pick up your student, I would advise that you aim to arrive at school at 3:05. Don't arrive at 2:45. You'll note that there's a long line, and that line will stretch, and we can't start moving till the buses leave at the end of the day. So aim to arrive as a car at 3:05. If your family is enterprising, you might even work with your lower adolescent student to walk to a location where it is safe to be picked up, like near Horton Park or across the footbridge or north of the school. That's something that your family can make an individual decision about if you want to avoid the drive around. And the only reason I say that is because, Tammy, if you'll go to the next slide, I will be able to point something out. We have all of our lower adolescent students using this east side of the building. And you'll notice on the far right side here is a gray line that represents the sidewalk on the east side of the building. On the south side of this picture, the bottom of this, yeah, there's the gray sidewalk. On the bottom of the picture, thanks for the backup with the cursor, Tammy. Perfect. Where Tammy's cursor was going back and forth along the bottom there, that is the drop-off line. And at the end of the day, to pick up your student, with adolescent students in particular, we are going to be waving cars through unless your student is right there ready to get in your car. So if you pull up, you don't see your student, or they're not ready to get in, we're just going to ask you to pull around the block and swing by again to pick them up. It goes much faster for you and everyone that way. And so I just want to prepare you for that eventuality. I'll be out there on the first 2 days waving in traffic at the end of the day. So you might see me or several others ask you to just pull around and go around the block again. This is a map that you can link to in the email that you received today. This shows where you enter in order to get to your cohort's classroom. So you'll notice we have, just to go from right to left here, a purple line for Kayla's cohort. So if you're in Kayla's cohort, you're dropped off on the south side, you're going to walk all the way up the sidewalk, then across past the new basketball hoop installed by a few seniors as their legacy project. So thanks to Isaiah and Alamu and Tony. You'll enter through those doors and go to Kayla's room there in the media lab. If you're in Michael's cohort, you'll walk up the sidewalk in the green arrow, walk over, and then straight down through the Zen garden to get to Michael's room there. If you're in Johnny's room, you're actually going to walk through the garden under the oak tree, go to the door that's by the goat pen. The goats are still on a vacation, a sojourn in Osceola, Wisconsin, and won't be returning this spring. However, you will walk to their goat pen, hang a left to get into your cohort room. And then just to close it out, Elizabeth's room is in the room is just north of Johnny's, but you're going to enter actually through the main south doors next to the garden, that purple arrow there. You'll walk up the hallway to enter to Elizabeth's room, and you'll notice you're the only cohort to actually walk through a hallway down there on the south side of the building to get to your classroom. And Scott's cohort will be actually walking up the main sidewalk and then through the blue garage door into that room. So your cohorts will be separated. We want students to definitely be aware of their cohort when they're indoors. And if you'll go to the next slide, Tammy, we'll talk just a little bit about masks. And so generally the rule is you would like to bring some extra masks, because if your mask gets wet, it's not useful to you or anyone else. If your mask gets, say, sweaty or just full of moisture from you exhaling, you also want to be able to switch your mask out. We do have masks at school, and we want you, if you can, to bring your own masks every day. The tip from our school nurse noted here is that you want to bring a bag, if you can, to store your masks in. I'll say if you have pockets, a bag, say a bag for a used mask, and then a Ziploc bag or a sandwich bag for new masks are fine to put in your pockets to keep ready. And then you will change masks as needed. And as an adolescent student and family, know that your student really is responsible for mask etiquette. So we will be reminding you if the mask isn't covering your nose or isn't covering your face properly to have that adjustment. And then we'll be working together as a community for some positive ways to remind each other to keep our masks on, especially indoors. Again, remember that mask really helps us reduce the exposure we have indoors to each other's possible contagion. And we're also then, if you go to the next slide, thank you, Tammy, just reminding folks that the mask protocol, in addition to the distancing protocol, is as follows. Everyone in the building, students, staff, and visitors, wear masks at all times. And then, oh, I see a typo here. Oh, I thought I really caught them all. Masks are mandatory for students. They were up until Tuesday of this week, mandatory outdoors for adults when supervising students outdoors. That will change. I'll talk about that in the next slide. But you want to make sure you have your mask with you at all times. So even if you go outdoors, and I'll tell you about the change in the next slide, and you take your mask off, you want to have it with you. We have a mask behavior plan for students. So if you're really having a hard time with masks, we're going to make a plan with you on how to succeed. And then we want students, especially when you're in your cohort indoors, to think about 3 feet distancing between all other students whenever possible. Adults will stay that 3-foot distancing from students also. And adults, we're doing our best to keep a 6-foot distance indoors when possible. So mask protocol updates on the next slide, highlighted in yellow. Thank you, Tammy, for driving this ship. Just this week, per Department of Health guidelines being updated and the CDC making some announcements, outdoors, starting on Monday, Great River students and staffs can remove masks during school activities outdoors. And that's because the data is showing, and the studies are also showing, in terms of the possibility of passing COVID-19 between 2 people outside, the chances are very, very small, especially thinking about the way that we're outside together with fresh air around us, with fresh air moving between us, and very little chance of being in a closed space with very little airflow. So starting on Monday, academic cohorts of students, i.e. the cohorts that are together, could use the same outdoor spaces as other cohorts. We had, up until this time, been separating elementary classrooms, and have been separating other cohorts, but this means that outdoor times, lunch, recess, some gatherings like community meetings, we can gather cohorts together, and that we're going to be following all guidelines for outdoor events for the rest of the year. So staysafe.mn.gov is the place where we'll be looking as the year goes on. But when we're thinking about things like community meetings, when we're thinking about things like any of the end of the year things that you might think about and associate with the Great River School traditions, we'll be in touch with you on those. But generally, your students should be ready to have a mask with them at all time. And even when we're outdoors, say at recess, I can imagine times where we might have to take cover, might have to gather under something if there's a lightning storm, and you want to be able to have your mask with you to put it on, even if we have to go inside unexpectedly quickly. So basically, the rule is keep a mask with you, stay aware of where you are in space. And Tammy, if we go to the next slide, we are living through. Oh yeah, please.
The students are going to do a fair amount of their work outside in the CAM cohorts. And that's when we're in academic classes, we're going to keep our masks on so that students can get close and not have to worry about it. We really want students to work together. We really want students to feel like it's authentic Great River. So during classes, keep your masks on because we'll be sitting there for longer than just a brief moment together. So clarification.
Yep. And so thank you, Tammy, for that clarification. So I'll also chime in that when you're doing your CAM investigations, say in the morning or afternoon, you go outside, keeping that mask on is also a good way to just, I would guess, signal that you're still aware of who's around you and we're not moving around as much. So if you're really going to sit there and work with somebody, chances are you're going to be within 3 feet of each other for a long time. And it's a good idea just to keep a mask on under a tent or wherever you're studying. I also want to chime in that wearing a raincoat is something you want to be ready to do. So if you have a raincoat, great. You should be ready to pack it and bring it with you at all times. If you don't have a raincoat, please let us know. It's something that, unless we stay in a drought, I anticipate we might need. And so you'll want to be ready to wear it. You also want to be ready to wear clothes that you're ready to basically be outdoors in, walking around in dirt or mud or grass in, and experiencing the elements in at all times. Because we could end up really spending 90% of the day outdoors for most of these days. I'm showing you here a fairly complicated, this isn't a board game. This is actually, if you look it up, the Department of Health decision tree for when do you quarantine? And so we are living through a pandemic. So yes, even though we're taking precautions, even though I know many people in our community are pursuing vaccinations if they are able, even though we're doing what we can to keep each other safe through this pandemic, it is likely that at least one time in the next month, someone's going to have a positive COVID test. And if that happens, we are going to follow all these precautions. So what that means is I'm encouraging all families, all students who are, especially the ones who are coming on site and or participating in activities, even if they're outdoors, to get tested regularly. So there's still many places to get free tests. You can still order them at home. And if you have symptoms, to stay home. That also means if someone in your family has symptoms, be cautious. Go get a test before you come in. Make sure that your family isn't carrying COVID or you're not asymptomatic. This Department of Health decision tree, I'm not going to go over in detail. The concise message is that if there's a positive COVID case in a cohort, that cohort will have to go through the quarantine protocol, which is 2 weeks of quarantine for anyone who's tested positive for COVID. And then there are iterations of ways that you can quarantine for 10 days or get a test after 5 days to find out if you're carrying the virus or not. And those are ways to relieve the quarantine. So I'm not going to go into deep detail now, but if there's a positive case in your cohort, you will get a letter and a text and a phone call letting you know, as it could be as early as that morning, just an hour before school, that we found that out. In that case, we'll pivot that cohort to be virtual learning. It'll take a day or two to get that going for that cohort, but it's a protocol we followed for other cohorts, and we found it rather effective. And then if you go to lunch and recess next, Tammy. Thank you. Thank you for projecting. I appreciate it. Excellent. So lunch and recess. The student logistics are this. It doesn't say this, but the first point I would say is almost all of our lunches and recesses are going to be outdoors. So again, you want to be wearing clothes that you're comfortable sitting in the grass in, sitting on a not finished surface in, be that a log or a stone or wherever we find to sit. Also, you want to be ready to wear the kinds of, again, clothes and accessories that you can sit outside and wear. Important to know that we're going to wash and sanitize your hands before and after lunch. So if you've got a way you prefer to do that, bring the equipment you need to do that. Lunch is outside in every day, unless it's lightning or unless it's really unbearable outside. We won't be singing, talking, yelling while eating. So one important thing to note, right? We're all going to be probably sitting 3 feet away from each other outside, at least when we're eating, but we don't want to be, eating and then talking and then our food flying all over the place with everything else attached to it. So that's why we're saying no talking while eating. There are, in fact, many human cultures where eating silently is a way to be reverent for our food. So we'll think about that too. It might be a challenge for 7th and 8th years. You might want to start practicing at home. Just think about it.
I'll just interject. That's only inside.
Yeah.
If we're
Okay,
inside,
great.
because it's severe, then just like the elementary does, it's like watch or listen to a podcast or something. But outside, you can talk while you eat. We don't need to micromanage you. So
we just don't want the sandwich flying across the greens. Yeah. In any case, I just thought that was hilarious. We won't have microwaves or hot water kettles because we're bound to be outside most of the time. So this means it will be impractical to bring things such as ramen for lunch. So if you've got your ramen collection, you're ready to bring it for lunch, you're going to have to either pre-make it and bring it in a watertight container, or you're going to have to leave it at home and bring something else for lunch. School lunch is a great option. You can order school lunch. We will send out, again, a reminder of how to do that regularly. However, it's the same system we used last year. So you'll get onto the lunchtime website and order there. We will be generally walking to a park for all recess, unless, of course, it's a lightning storm or really weather that we can't be outside in. So rain is not an excuse to not go to the park. Be ready to do that. Tammy, anything to add that I missed?
Mm-mm.
Okay, great. Thanks for clarifying the not talking while eating. Though I will note, if it's lightning outside, you will eat indoors with your cohort, and that does mean generally the 19 or so students in the cohort will remove their masks and will eat together in that room and just be aware of each other. So that cohort group really is interdependent in terms of how we're acting also outside of school. So I just want to reiterate, coming in person is a real gift for this year. And I think it's really, as I have found, the more days I'm on site in person with my colleagues, the more buoyant and really ready to face challenges that I feel. So having students in person, I don't take for granted. And I would just encourage anyone who's coming on site, if possible, reduce any other exposure behaviors outside of school. So reduce any other trips to indoor places, reduce any other exposures to folks who might be carrying COVID just for the next few weeks. And then I think, Tammy, you're up for what to bring, what to leave at home.
Yeah. Bring a snack, bring your lunch, bring your backpack. So we won't be using lockers. So everything stays in it's like you're on the Odyssey. So bring your backpack, bring a water bottle and not a 4-ounce one, right? Like a big one that you can carry to the park and back and run around at recess. Please bring extra masks. Please bring gear to be outside no matter what. Let's hope it doesn't snow. There's a school supply list that you got today. Some things are new, like a clipboard. Some things are old, but that you would bring on a key experience like sunscreen and your rain gear. So take a look at that, office at greatriverschool.org if you need anything there. School technology. So if you have a computer at home that you're using from the school or that you prefer to use and it's your own personal one, bring that. However, what not to bring. Don't bring your cell phone and expect to use it during the day. As you know, they are never allowed in 7-8 environments ever. Don't bring that. However, if you need to get a hold of your student, you're a family member, caregiver, you need to get a hold, call the front office and they will get a hold of us. If your student desperately needs to get a hold of you, we'll make that happen. They can go to the office or use a room in a phone in the room or something. So there's ways around that. As always, keep your personal fluffy animal thing at home, or anything of sentimental value,
Toys. Yeah.
toys, distracting things, leave that at home. So if you bring recess gear, like you really want to play football with this football, everybody gets to play football with that football. So those are kind of like the things we think about. So yeah. How to support your student, helping them make sure they pack their lunch, and clean it up and repack it, and start talking about norms when you eat with other people and COVID safe. I haven't taken my children to a restaurant yet, but you might have to talk about how to eat in that environment and feel okay about it, and what norms, using a napkin to wipe your face. If you're coughing, what do you do? You know, like choking on your food or something like that. Wash those water bottles inside and out every day. Keep them really clean. It's like I've been around the block here in adolescent at Great River, and I know what they look like by the end of the week. So wash them every day, really keep them clean. Keep your masks washed and ready to go. I know that's going to be different, washing 2 or 3 masks every night. Do you throw them in the wash? Do you do them at the sink? And they're probably going to have their favorites. So if they do have a favorite, get them a couple extra favorites so that it's more comfortable for them. And really be thinking about, like, if they're complaining of their ears hurting or headaches, thinking about and asking for help with solutions for that. So all masks, as you might know, are not created equal. So really use the sort of like hive mind that we have at Great River for that. And then we're going to be going over clear expectations, both rules and norms and shared values the first day of school. And then I'll send that slide deck home to you. Go over that with your student, because you know, if students aren't wearing masks, it's both unsafe and also anxiety producing for other students. So we just want everyone to sort of know what we have going on. And one of our norms at Great River is balancing freedom and responsibility. So, you know, what does equity look like within our norms and our expectations and our rules? Really having those conversations, those hard ones at home.
And I'd even say specifically, sometimes those hard ones are as simple as, what if you're really good at wearing your mask and you've got a couple kids cohort who are really struggling to wear it properly? You know, how do you redirect them and not just get so frustrated you can't engage or talk? Or if you're struggling to wear your mask, I guess I'd say practice at home. What do you do? What do you get at home? You know, incentivize your own self individually. What do you get if you do well all day wearing that mask? So thinking about those things, and then also that the freedom of movement outside of the cohort is going to be very restricted. So you go to your cohort, you can go to your cohort outdoor learning space, but unless it's a clear directive time where you have a freedom to go talk to other cohorts, which will be rare and likely only at social times, we're really going to be reiterating for students that staying with their cohort and following adult direction about where they can and can't be is really important right now. And likely will be in the fall too. So if your student is great at that and you're good at that, great. If you know you struggle at that as a student, or you know your student struggles, start talking right now about how to be proactive, about asking where can I be, where should I not go, that kind of thing.
And I guess like another hard conversation to have is like, I'm not with my best friend in my cohort, and
yeah,
it was really hard to make cohorts. So just understanding and talking with students about how hard it was to make the cohorts and all the different considerations we have to keep in mind. So yeah, I think the cohort that you're in is pretty stuck. I got a couple questions about that today, and it's not because we didn't want students to be with their friend groups. It's because Jenga of epic proportions.
Right. A lot of puzzle pieces to fit together. And I'll just report, having gone through the survey data, of the 96 or so students who opted in to in-person learning, roughly half had a comment, something like, I know that it's really hard to make groups, and I know maybe this can't be accommodated, but could my student please be with this one person because we haven't seen them in a year? And I guess I'll just say, we tried, but one good thing about coming to school, I think Tammy was talking about it at the beginning of this, is the nervousness you have about being there really will be addressed by being there. And as we settle into being in routine together, there still will be sometimes you probably get to see the friend who's not in your cohort, but you know you get to see him in June after school's out for sure. So as we move through, I'll just really implore everyone to be excited about being at school and making this building alive again with students. So there's one question I see, Tammy, about practical life. Will the kids still have practical life? I've got an answer, but do you want to take it?
Practical life has really changed to CAM, to Community Action Month. So
Yep.
programming is just much different. So
yeah, I was going to say the Community Action Month, in a way, is practical life. There's going to be a lot of opportunities to do helpful, useful things, both in the room in your cohort, right outside the room, like Tammy was saying, the garden's got to get planted, things got to get done. And the way students are choosing what to study is really one of the adolescent skills of developing your interest in relation to how you can make an impact in your community. That's a practical life skill we talk about for our adolescent program. So, but what there won't be is a daily choice of like, do I knit with someone today or do I dig a hole with someone today? No. Two practical skills, knitting and digging holes. I don't see any other live questions. And so with that, if you've watched this recording, again, you can always email a question to us at office@greatriverschool.org. And Tammy, anything else you want to say in closing?
I will just extend a huge, accolade to the faculty that is implementing it. It's really incredible what they've done. So if you see them, maybe don't give them a hug, but give them a hug.
One of these ones? Yeah, one of those ones? Yeah. Well, I want to thank the staff who came in, and Tammy, you, for putting together a really meaningful last 3.5 weeks. So I'm looking forward to seeing students really get not only a lot out of the next 3.5 weeks, but a lot of good momentum toward remembering what school is like and taking that into the summer, because we're really looking forward to seeing them. So, okay, thanks. Okay, bye everybody. Bye, Tammy.